Hi, Matt Bisogno here again, and welcome to another edition of Gold Nuggets. Apologies for the slight hiatus the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks back was Cheltenham, of course, and we were all preoccupied with that. And last week I was ailing with one thing and another that I won't bore you with right now. In that time, we've had quite a few people join Geegeez. Welcome. Very pleased to have you with us. I hope you're finding it interesting. And in tonight's Gold Nuggets, I hope that I can add some further colour and value to your Geegeez Gold experience. Whether you're new or you've been around for nearly as long as me, I hope that I've got some interesting stuff, because the main thrust of this evening's Gold Nuggets is the start of the flat season. So we had Doncaster last weekend, and then, of course, the turf has gone AWOL again. But it's going to be an increasingly present and soon to be omnipresent part of our racing experience. So, which parts of Geegeez Gold are best suited to that? How can you get a head start in terms of overarching research between now and then? And that's really the focus of this Gold Nuggets episode. So enough with the preambles, let's crack on. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at some reports that I think are useful, both for newcomers quickly, and then some more focused on the start of the flat season. So if we click over to the reports page from this menu item, you can also get to the reports. Actually, I'll just quickly mention this. You can also get to the reports from the race card page, and there's a report selector there. But let's go to the reports page itself. The first thing to say, if you are not aware of this already, is that along the top there is a separate menu system specifically for the reports, and they've all got kind of shorthand notation just for space constraints, but hopefully you get the general gist of what each one is. You can, if you haven't been to this page, you can scroll down and see what's there. There's some more below the bottom of this video here. The ones that I want to quickly touch on today, if you're a newcomer, perhaps the best place to start, or if you're inexperienced, if you're a newcomer and you know you're racing, this may be a little bit basic for your needs. But the first thing I wanted to touch on is the Shortlist report, and this is a daily digest every day of essentially the best suited horses to the race conditions today. So there are only 3 on today's Shortlist on the win view. You can see we have today and tomorrow here, and win and place. So this is these, and each of going, class, course, distance and field size are given a score of 0 for, in fact, can't remember, maybe -1 for a red, and 1 for an amber. There we are. Yeah, the scoring is down here. It's such a long time since I've done this. Right, so there we go. So green is worth 3 points, amber is 1, red is -1, and grey is a 0. So we can see that 5 greens is 5 times 3, which is 15 for a score, and the other two, they've each got 3 greens, 1 amber and 1 red. The amber and red 1 point and -1 point cancel each other out, and so it's 3 points for the other bits. Nothing very exciting on there today. If we have a quick look at the place tab, when I look at the shortlist, what I like to do is I like to go to the place tab, and I like to sort the runners on the report by odds, highest to lowest. And the ones I'm interested in, and this is very convenient, I'm just looking at this now, but this is very convenient because I happen to know that Shantou Express won his race, and he takes high rank amongst the place shortlist potential each way options. So as I say, that is very convenient, and I assure you I didn't know that in advance, so huzzah. But that's what I like to do. I like to look for a horse at a price. What I should also say is I don't really recommend anybody just backing horses off the shortlist kind of without any further consideration. Of course, if you want to do that, that's entirely up to you. My personal recommendation is that you actually go to the race, so click on the race time and have a look at some of the detail in the race. And that's all I really want to say about the shortlist. It's a great place if you're struggling for a starting point. Essentially, that's a good starting point. The other good starting point is TJ Combo, which I've clicked in the menu bar there, the trainer jockey combo stats. And what I tend to look at personally is either the 1 year or the course 5 year. I'm looking for a kind of a bigger sample size to work with, and today we've got a couple or three runners here. It's 4:20 as I'm recording this, so none of them have run yet. I'm sure they'll all win. But that's definitely another report to look at. And if you click on the trainer name, or if you click on the entity, whatever's in the data row, it will show you the qualifying runner or runners. And if you click this little arrow, in this case we can see that Chester Williams and his mum Jane Williams have combined 18 times at Wincanton for 7 wins. And if we click this little arrow, we can see those 18 runs here, and we can actually do stuff like sort by position to see. We can see that the ones that won were basically all expected to win. They were all pretty short prices, as indeed is Esprit de Samoza and Moorland Rambler this afternoon. So that's kind of interesting context. It's always good to get as much context as you can around a runner. So again, TJ Combo and the shortlist, great places to start if you're kind of newish to racing and just want a few ins on the day. One thing that I'm not going to mention in any detail today, but I do want to raise your awareness of it again potentially, and that's report angles. Now, report angles is in my opinion, one of the very best things we have on Geegeez Gold, and I would encourage all Gold subscribers to take a little bit of time to set this up, or just to go there and click the defaults and start getting some data in the report. There is a blog post with a video in it, and I will link to that below this, with a report angles, how to find value bets in seconds. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore today, but I very much encourage you, if you're not currently using report angles, to take a look at this and to take a minute to set it up for yourself, because it will improve your betting. It just will. It's so much good stuff that is delivered into your race cards each day based on your preferences, set up exactly how you want it. No fat, no fluff, just the stuff that you want. So do take a minute to click the link below this video and get that set up if you're not already using report angles. You're definitely missing out if you're not using it yet. Right, the flat season cometh, and we need to be arming ourselves with as much information ahead of time as we can, and we need to know where to go to get further information on a race by race basis when the time comes. So there are some reports that will help us with this, particularly at this time of year. I think the trainer stats report is really important. The reason I say at this time of year is because we don't really know which trainers have been planning to hit the ground running, and which ones are going to kind of ease themselves into what will be a long 8 months ahead. And, you know, history does give us some pointers as to those who are fast starters, but history can be a bit unreliable, especially when history has got a massive COVID-sized crater in the middle of it in the last few years. So what I tend to want to look at is 14-day form. That is the last 14 days. It pays no heed to history, only the last 2 weeks. And we can look at that specifically in the context of the race meeting we're interested in. There are no flat turf meetings today, but let's have a look at Kempton here. And the other thing that I think is quite useful to do is to set up a few parameters at the top here. So this block up here. So I'm going to say that I want at least 5 runs in the last 2 weeks. and I'm probably just going to leave it at that because I actually want to see, I'm interested in sort of negative form as well as positive. So if I just put that 5 runs in there and update, I've got a shorter list now that I can work with. And the first thing I'm going to do from a positive perspective is sort by PRB, which is percentage of rivals beaten. If you're new, let me just quickly restate that a number greater than kind of 0.55, which means 55% of rivals beaten, is a positive, and some of these numbers here are strong positives, albeit on very small sample sizes. And a number below kind of 0.45 is a negative. And some of these, again, we're dealing with small data samples here, so we don't want to get too hung up on it. But I would be hoping that these characters are, it doesn't matter if they don't win or place, but these are running right down the field. Now, they might all have been 50-1 shots, and you've got to kind of be mindful of that as well. But the fact is that, I'd be a little bit apprehensive of supporting a runner from one of these yards right now, whereas I'd be kind of interested in what David Simcock's got. I mean, this horse is 80-1, looks like it's first start in a handicap. If that's right, Simcock has quite a good record first start in a handicap. This one may be absolutely useless. Certainly the betting seems to suggest that, but the trainer's in form. The horse has had almost no racecourse experience, only 3 runs, so is certainly entitled to improve. And that's how I'm looking at trainer stats. Now, where we are now, which is the 30th of March, just one turf meeting on the board at Doncaster. We're going to, one fixture, 2 fixtures, 1 meeting, if you see what I mean, 2-day fixture. We're going to get a lot more turf racing in the coming days and weeks, and as that happens, obviously these sample sizes will get more meaningful. So keep an eye on the trainer stats data, the 14-day. That's not to the exclusion of the other variables. Again, I'm interested in the kind of course 5-year stuff, and we can see that Simcock is here. Got on a 250 runner sample size, he's got 56% of rivals beaten. 12.5% strike rate is very respectable. Now, it's not a profitable route per se, but it's definitely, if you like the horse, then that's not going to put you off. Albeit that it's not an angle to bet straight off the bat, unless you're attracted to the recency element. So that's trainer stats, 14-day, very important this time of year, I think. Actually, it's quite important for the jumps racing as well, because you do tend to get, particularly with some of the bigger trainers, their focus is so exclusively on Cheltenham and getting the horses to peak at Cheltenham that almost immediately after that, they're on a downturn. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on that in terms of jumps form as well. Okay, the next report I want to look at very quickly, and this is quite convenient because I think that Simcock horse might appear on here, is the handicap first run. A lot of trainers will get their horses handicapped, their flat horses handicapped as a 2-year-old over a distance that may be not quite the optimum trip for the horse in question, and then start their handicap career as a 3-year-old. And some trainers are a good bit better than most trainers at doing this. So we have this information that can help us to understand that, and we should jolly well use it. Here I'm going to put in kind of 15 runs, and I'm going to say course 5-year. Interestingly, we can see that our man Simcock is actually 0 from 19 in the last 5 years at Kempton with handicap debutants, and not a very attractive PRB number. So all of a sudden this Vive la Reine looks a lot less interesting. But the flip side of that is that we might want to have a look at Marco Botti's runner in, I think, the same race. No, in the 7:30. Pensiero d'amore. I think that's something about thinking about love. Thinking of love. And that's a 33-1 shot. Had a few goes. First time in a handicap. Might be worth a look. Maybe only a very cursory look. But again, as we I'm not trying to showcase this around a Kempton all weather card. I'm trying to project forward to when the turf starts and when a lot of these horses that have been off all winter reappear, and we want to know whether their trainer's modus operandi suggests that they can get one ready first time in a handicap. April and May will be particularly interesting months on this particular angle. So trainer first handicap, have a look at that report in the coming months in relation to the flat season. Trainer change is another one. A lot of sales in October, and a lot of horses changing yards and being given the winter off to freshen up, to grow and to develop and to come back for the turf season. So, and that is now. One thing to be aware of is that this horse here, for instance, Rainbow Fire, the trainer change angle is almost certainly from John Gosden to John and Thady Gosden. So that's kind of a red herring there. The others, here's another convenient one that I happen to know about courtside. Sean Curran, very good on the trainer switch. This horse won at 10-1 today. So, again, kind of be aware of those that whose chance advertises itself. Just one other point on this particular horse, because this is why I knew about this already, because look, these are my report angles that I was talking about earlier. Report angles are great. You see in this race there's a few ones and there's this 5 here. Trainer change 2 year, trainer change 5 year. This trainer change one is the same as the top one, from a different report. And then a couple of trainer snippets ones. So Sean Curran in all weather flat races, Sean Curran in middle distance races. There are a lot of pointers towards the chance of this horse today, and he won at 10-1. That is, again, it's convenient, of course it is, but what I'm trying to say is that you need to be aware of this data. Lots of people, even if they know that the horse has changed trainers, they don't know whether that's material or not. They don't know how well the new trainer does with horses that he or she has inherited from a former trainer. And of course, even within that, there are things like, the horses inherited have come from trainers who have a range of abilities. So it's difficult to assimilate all of that information in a single row on a report. So we take this approach, and overall it seems to work pretty well. It's particularly material, as I say, this time of year, so please do be aware of that one. The last one, and perhaps the most obvious one, is the 2-year-old first start. So we've had a couple of 2-year-old races. We had the Brocklesby. There's a 2-year-old race today at Kempton featuring runners from Bowie and Cole, and they're the favourite and the second favourite in this race, in fact, and we can see that they have good stats, good data. So in this case, it's not really telling us anything that the market isn't telling us, but this kind of 2-year-old first start information is really, really interesting and important information for me personally. I use it all the time. If you're interested in second start, just very quickly, you can go to the trainer snippets report right here. Couldn't find it for a minute. And we have a second start option here. So all of these buttons relate to the last 2 years data. So if I just pop that on second start, now it won't apply to a 2-year-old today because they're all having their first start. But going forwards again, if you want to know which trainers 2-year-olds kind of step forward from first to second start, then this is a great way of establishing that. So do take a look at this. Nothing particularly interesting today, I don't think. Maybe Stuart Kitto has won at Kempton 50-1. Ran third on its only start. Might be overpriced, might not be. Again, this is, for me, this is always a starting point, and then I want to go to the race itself and have a look at it. So definitely have an awareness of first and second start at this time of year, because lots of trainers leave their horses with something to work on, and just want them to get the racecourse experience the first day. And actually, with that cohort, when their horses win the first day, you can expect them to be probably, really quite good relatively. Some other trainers have their horses primed for the first day, and maybe don't move forward so much from first to second start. So we have the data, we have the information to make good, intelligent judgment calls on this kind of thing. Of course, we won't always get it right. In fact, we'll generally get it wrong. That's the nature of the game. But over time, we'll be getting the value. And if you're getting the value over time, you're going to win. And that's what we're trying to do. So 2-year-old first start and trainer snippets for first and second start data. Very important. Okay, that's a lot on reports and enough on reports. The other things that I want to talk about today are about research for the flat season start. And let's start with the Draw Analyser. So under the Tools menu item, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. One of them is the Draw Analyser. Let's go there now. It looks like this. Essentially, it's got a configuration block at the top here, and then everything underneath that refers or alludes or is driven by the configuration block. So the top section, let me just change this window size a minute. The top section here is kind of a simplistic low, medium and high, or low, middle and high draw, a breakdown into 3 blocks, and a graph that shows the same. And then the next section is specific draw, stall by stall stuff, and a chart that also replicates that. And then at the bottom, we've got this rather marvellous thing called a heat map, which overlays the draw third, low, middle or high, with run style to help us understand what the optimal combination of draw and pace or run style really is. Really instructive stuff, and I wouldn't even contemplate having a bet in any flat race without considering this information, which is also which can be found on the within each race itself. So if we look at this, obviously there's no form. So there, on the pace tab, what we'll have is we've got a blank chart. But if I put the heat map on, then you can see. I'm not sure that's working quite. I'm not sure that's the best example because there's no form in the race. What I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how we can see that overlay from the draw, this kind of heat map overlay. We can see that actually within a race, and this is how it looks within a race. So we can see that, for instance, War Brave, drawn on the inside and figuring to very likely lead in this race, 10-1 chance, is in the green zone. So typically this is a place where horses have performed well. So War Brave, 10-1, kind of interesting. Again, I haven't looked at any of the data in the race, but I can see it's a 0-65 3-year-old, so horses kind of with a bit more to give maybe couple of report angles in there. The trainer's in reasonable recent form. Jockey rides the track well. Nothing that would especially put you off. And this horse is very likely to lead. And so, we'll see how long he can lead for, or she. So that's that. Definitely be looking at the draw analyzer. So when I say looking at this, let's take a look at, let's have a look at, not Nace, because that's a bit of a quirky one. Well, why don't we just stick with Ascot 5 furlongs here? So I always use the actual. That just removes the non-runners from the draw sequence. And if what I tend to do is I want to look at kind of quick ground to good, and then I'd look at good to soft to heavy, because I sometimes the draw changes as a result, and I want to make sure that I'm not losing some of the nuance by grouping all going considerations together. And I normally I might look at 8+ runners, but often I look at 10+ runners. I tend to look at handicaps because in theory it's a more level playing field across the runners, and I'll probably want to have a bit more recency in the date range, so I might go kind of 2018 to now. As it happens, it doesn't materially change the facts. Now, interestingly, if you look at the wins, you say, well, it's very even. But if you look at the places, you see quite a different story. And if you look at the PRB, percentage of rivals beaten column, that is reflected there in that high seems to be well suited. We can go down to our PRB3, which is the average percentage of rivals beaten of a stall and its immediate neighbours. So for the PRB3 of stall 4 is the average PRB of stalls 3, 4 and 5. Don't really worry about that. It's basically just a way of smoothing the curve. Not that you'd know it from this particularly inconvenient example. Let's try let's try a longer. In fact, let's try 6 furlongs in the hope that it smooths over my embarrassment. Not really. So, what we can really say is that Ascot is probably a very fair track, and kind of a graph like this suggests that either rail is fine, and often they come down the middle, and that's fine too. It's kind of I'm not trying to draw a meaningful inference from this chart, but very often you'll get one that starts high on the left and is quite a linear curve to the right, or vice versa, starts low on the left and goes high on the right. So you can see a very clear differentiation of advantage to one side or the other, and not in this particularly poorly selected example. But do look at the draw analyzer, whatever your favourite track is, or if you want to get a head start on various tracks. Beverley, of course, doesn't have a 5 furlong track, but it does have a famously, or historically famously, kind of one-sided course. Used to be very much favouring low, as you can see there. If we change that to a more recent data set, we can see that, look at this high kicker. So again, one needs to be careful about how history, how draw biases change over time, essentially. And if you want to see this in action, have a look at Nace. One unadvertised bonus on this, if you are a free subscriber currently, Draw Analyzer is actually a gold subscriber tool. But if you are a registered free subscriber, so if you're paying, if you've signed up to the website, that you can use this link, which again I'll put below the video, and you can access the Draw Analyzer tool for free. Hooray! So there's some information about how to use it, and some actually there's a cheat sheet, if you like, Draw Bias 101 there as well. So there's plenty go at there if you are a free Geegeez subscriber, and of course if you are a paid Geegeez subscriber there's plenty more, including the pace analyzer, the query tool and so on. So I was going to talk about horse profiling as well today, but I've kind of run a bit short on time. So I think I'll save that until next week in the interests of relative brevity at least. And that's enough for now. Obviously, hopefully there's something of interest for you in this video. I'm conscious that I've covered quite a lot of ground, and hopefully some of it was new ground or has reminded you of things that are of interest. That's all for now. This is Matt Bisonia saying thank you very much as always for watching, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.